Greetings and welcome back to the last lesson of AB Computer Science Principles. This is Unit 10, Cybersecurity and Global Impacts, Lesson 10, Protecting the Data, Part 2. Let's jump right into it. Warm up. What strategies do you use when creating a good password? So don't actually reveal your current password. Just what do you do to create a good password? So don't pause. Welcome back. So hopefully a lot of them have what you've already been accustomed to, the special characters and all of that fun stuff. But there's a few things that you want to take in consideration and with this. So, I don't know this takeaway already, but when we look at this, it does need to be easy to remember, because if you have to write it down, it makes it kind of worthless. But one of the biggest things for time to get hacked is the longer the password, the longer it's going to take for them to hack. We saw this in our other videos with encryption. When you add more numbers, it gets exponentially harder to crack. So the same things with your password. If you have 8 characters, it might take, in this decent time, might take 2 weeks for a computer to crack, and most people give up well before 2 weeks. But just by jumping to like 10 characters, it could be well over 100 years. And at that point, you probably don't care if anyone hacks you, because it's not going to really matter to you at that point. So, again, length is huge. Now, the special characters definitely add to it, add a little bit more complexity to it. But let's go on this concept of easy to remember. One thing to think about is some kind of passphrase. So maybe it's like 4 different words, random words, semi-random words that you can remember. And then you can still add the complexity in there. Zeros are O's and ones are L's, or whatever you're trying to do. You can add some of the A's or at signs. And now you got the complexity, and maybe you just capitalize the first letter and the last letter. So you have all the little pieces to it. It's easy to remember. It's long, you have like 12 characters or more, because it's like 3 or 4 words, but they're words that mean something to you. So that's, key takeaway to this. Hard for someone to guess. So, I mean, if it's like your 3 favorite words and everyone knows those are your 3 favorite words, might not be so useful, but, just random pieces. And you can mix stuff together that doesn't make any sense. I mean, you can even use a sentence. I like soccer. And then you could say something like, I like soccer on Tuesdays, or I like soccer in blue. That doesn't make any sense, but it's easy to remember. I like soccer in blue. But again, that's going to be a little bit harder to hack, especially if you add all that extra stuff into it. So again, key to passwords, needs all those special characters. Complexity is what that term is, complexity and length. And then something that you can remember, because again, if you have to write it down or keep changing it, it's not going to help all that much. So for our activity, we're going to discuss some different things. So besides password, you can also use multi-factor authentication. Single-factor authentication is one piece of that. All right, one piece of that. So there's different factors. It's something you know, something you are, something you have, which kind of boils down to something you know, which is this one, is a password. It's a PIN number, right? It's something you know. Something you have would be like a phone or an ID chip or a thumb drive, right? That's something you have. Something you are would be your retina scan, your fingerprint, your voice, your face, right? So single factor is just one of those, right? So maybe you unlock your phone with just your thumbprint. Even though it's not a password, it's still single factor authentication, because all it takes is your fingerprint. And I had a student come up to me once who was very impressed with his phone. He said, look, it only opens with my voice. I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm getting my phone ready real quick. I'm like, go ahead and try it. Go and show me it works. So he goes, he says his little catchphrase or whatever, and he's like, now see if you can get into it. So I recorded it, and I just pressed play on my phone and was able to get into his device. Again, but that's single-factor authentication. If you would also have had a password on it, I wouldn't have known his password. So those are things to think about. So that's single. Now, two-factor is just 2 of those. And a lot of this you'll probably see is one of the big things. Something you know, you type in a password, and then something you possess, they text you a code, right? That code is not something you know. It's something you have because that code went to your phone, right? You have your phone with you. You possess your phone. It gives you a code because normally you can't just stick your phone in the computer and get it to say, look, I have my phone. So that's two-factor authentication. Now, what are the problems with this? How could it be hacked? Well, if someone gets your phone and they know your password, they're golden, right? They're good to go. It does also limit you. You have to have your phone on you at all times for that. And as I mentioned, if I knew that kid's password, I was able to get his voice. So there are workarounds for that as well. So multi-factor is at least two, right? And we talked about this last one here already, but something you know, PIN, password, something you possess, or those security questions would go over there. Something you possess, your phone, thumb drive. It's an item, something you are. So your fingerprint, you don't possess your fingerprint. It is you, right? Your fingerprint, DNA, blood. I actually seen any of those used, but again, something you are is at least multi-factor is at least two. So why is this a better system than a single-factor authentication? What are the challenges with the system? Is it worth any of the risk? So go ahead and pause. Welcome back. Let's kind of just keep on going. So how can you protect your data? Well, multi-factor authentication is huge. Update your software. Now, I don't think this presentation does a great job on going over this, but we'll talk about it a little bit. So one of the #1 reasons computers get infected with viruses, besides users just clicking on stuff they shouldn't click, phishing, blah, 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 all that fun stuff we already talked about, is because you need to understand how viruses work. And a lot of these vulnerabilities is there's a flaw with the software, right? Microsoft has a flaw, Adobe has a flaw. There is a flaw with something in the software, the setup, coding, whatever, and someone exploits it. Right? And as soon as someone exploits it, the companies figure out, Microsoft's like, oh, hey, someone exploited this, I need to fix that. And a lot of times people, they try to do it themselves, right? They pay people to find bugs. But in the meantime, one big problem is they'll put out the patch to fix the issue, but if you don't update Microsoft, all the time that you're not updated, someone can hack you with that particular thing. And it happens every day. They find something new. They put out new updates. So Microsoft updates every Wednesday. They put out new, and you are vulnerable until you get your device updated. And this also applies the same concept to antivirus, because how antiviruses work just like real antiviruses. If you get a shot, it protects you against that one thing, right? If there is a new COVID 2022 or whatever it is, right? A new version of something, you don't have a shot against it yet. Your body doesn't know, the antibodies aren't built up to protect you against that. You need to update your shots, get a new shot, new flu shot, whatever it is. Those are something that always need to be updated. And software is kind of the same. That's why they call it antivirus. They call it virus and stuff like that for those reasons exactly. All right, so we'll do a quick review. What is a computer virus? It's just something that's malicious on your computer that requires you to spread it. And then how can you protect your device from computer viruses? Well, as we do in a review, two things. Well, many things, but #1, don't click on stuff you should click on. #2, keep your antivirus up to date. #3, keep your device up to date. So again, even if you click on something you shouldn't, and it gets past your antivirus for whatever reason, it hasn't run yet, if your device is up to date and that virus attacks something that was exploitable, it won't hurt it, right? So again, the first things first, if you just don't click, you don't do something to give yourself the virus, that's a big start. And if you get your virus scanning software up to date, so if you do accidentally click on something, or something gets sent through the mail, it can find it. And then updating your software, because that's normally what the viruses do. They attack a vulnerability in your software. So let's just clear this up. Data protection is a moving target. you always need to know what is out there, what's the best you can do. So just make sure that you are doing what you can now and staying apprised of new things as well. Alright, that is pretty much the rest of this lesson. So you can discuss with someone, maybe family members, how to protect their data. And then finally, we have our multi-factor authentication. We talked about that, something they know, something they have, and something they are. And then computer scanning, virus scanning software. Again, it is only as good as what it knows about, right? Just like a antivirus, thing that you get, your flu shot. It's only good against that flu that it was particularly made against. If there's a new flu, then you need a new flu shot. That is it for our lessons. Have a good one.